Apollo provides its own security layer to manage a default set of security principals, users, and roles. Those wishing to manage those things outside of Apollo may choose a directory service, such as Microsoft Active Directory or a lightweight directory access protocol, or LDAP, an LDAP provider such as the Apache Directory Project. Apollo delivers a template LDIF file which can be imported into the directory service to create the set of Apollo users and roles and security principles that are needed. In this video, we'll look at how simple it is to configure Apollo for an LDAP configuration. Configuring LDAP for Apollo server is quite simple, and it is accomplished using the Server Configuration Wizard. I'll scroll through the first few panels of the Configuration Wizard to get to the panel that applies to setting the correct authentication type for our Apollo service, which in this case will be the LDAP authentication. So the panel you see is titled Authentication Setup Page. We'll choose the third option for LDAP, and then we'll simply give the connection information to connect to our LDAP server. So we'll give the host name. Next, we'll enter the port number that connects to the LDAP service, the binding. If there's a password that applies to that LDAP service, you would enter that in this field. And then we'll give the username and password for our Apollo administrator username and password in these last two fields. Then select Next. At this point, we would finish out the configuration wizard, and once the configuration has finished, Apollo will be configured to use the LDAP service to define the security principles, users, and roles needed for the Apollo service. To demonstrate that our configuration is using the LDAP repository, you can open up the Apollo Data Manager, look under the configuration menu at users and roles, and you'll observe that these are now disabled. And that's because Apollo is no longer managing these things. Those are managed by your LDAP repository. Looking at the Apache Directory Studio, we can see where the Apollo users and roles are now being managed. This capability allows IT administrators the ability to control Apollo security principles outside of the Apollo environment.